Update. Am I the a-hole for sending my daughter to live with her grandmother and giving her clothes to her sister? Original story. Okay, so title is a doozy, but let me explain. I, 34 female, am a single mother with 2 children, 14 female and 11 female. Up until recently, they've had a typical sibling relationship, bickering, but they ultimately love each other. This all changed on Thursday. I was taking 11 out for a birthday shop and had left 14 home alone. We were only gone for 2 hours. When we got back, everything was fine. 14 was doing her homework and she had done the chores I had asked her to. 11 ran up to her room to try on new clothes when I hear screaming. 14 had completely trashed her, 11's, room. Her clothes were cut up. Her makeup had been destroyed and smeared on the walls and desk. Her books had been ripped up and schoolwork missing. We found it in a bin bag outside and it was luckily in harm's along with her favorite stuffed animal. 11 was, understandably, in hysterics and 14 seemed to show remorse, but I was so overwhelmed that I called my mom and told her she needs to come pick 14 up. Whilst we were waiting, 11 was sifting through her stuff and I was in 14's room going through her clothes. She asked what I was doing, and I told her that since she destroyed 11's clothes, she needs some to wear whilst I get her some more. And I'm giving her 14's clothes for the time being. 14 still had enough clothes to wear though. She got super upset and went outside to wait for her grandma. It's Saturday and I was talking to my sister and friends about it. My sister called me an a-hole for shipping 14 off without trying to understand her motives and for giving her clothes to 11. She accused me favoring 11. My friends also said it was weird that I gave 14's clothes to 11 and that it was an odd punishment. Am I the a-hole? Info. I don't favor one daughter over the other. I grew up as the obvious second choice out of myself, and my sister and I strive to make them both feel loved. Literally last weekend, 11 went to stay with her uncle and cousin, so 14 and I could have a spa weekend together. So it's not like I neglected either of them. We're also very open about mental health in general, and this is one of the only times I've acted on anger/impulse in front of my kids. 14 doesn't have any diagnosed illnesses. It was a priority to get them both checked because I have mental illnesses. But 14 got checked in September 2020 and nothing came up. I'm going to get 14 a therapist, but it's hard due to recent events. Now for the top comments before reading the update. So, just suddenly, out of the blue, for no apparent reason, your daughter violently destroyed her sister's room and property? There's some missing info here. I hardly agree. 14 has some, obviously, pent-up issues toward 11. That is a massively destructive outburst, malicious and targeted. There's clearly some pent-up rage, but not necessarily because of 11. It's entirely possible that 14-year-old is being victimized by someone that is taking it out on a safe target. Not a-hole. It was a good decision to remove one child from a clearly overwhelming situation, but now begins the work. You need to find out why this happened. There must be a reason somewhere. Don't make the mistake of just being angry with 14. There needs to be consequences, sure, but also some serious source finding. This had a reason. Not a-hole. Separating the 2 girls was absolutely necessary, and it was a good idea for you to get some time and space so that you could cool down by sending the offending child to a neutral location with a supportive family member. The heat of the moment is not a good time for conversation. Since 14 destroyed 11's clothing, it is only just that some of 14's clothes to be given to her. It's not punishment, it's reparations. Why should you be forced to go out and spend money replacing clothing that 14 destroyed? I think your focus in getting everyone to a good mental place is absolutely spot on. Don't listen to people who think you were too hard on your older daughter because your response was logical and measured and thoughtful. You say you acted out of anger, but you were not nasty or punitive. You did exactly what I would have done, and did once. It is not productive to force people to live inside a pressure cooker. Edit. People are assuming I'm not talking to 14. I am. I also asked why she did what she did before her gran arrived, and she said she didn't know. Earlier today, she told me she wanted to smash things up. People also have an issue with the length that I've sent her away. I want to make sure 11 is okay mentally too. She had literally all of her belongings ruined, and I don't want to put her in a position where she has to live with someone who did that to her. I am planning on switching the girls. 11 goes to grandma and 14 comes to me. But again, I want to make sure everyone is okay mentally. Someone mentioned a TikTok trend where people trash other people's belongings. I know both 14 and 11 watch TikToks, so I might scroll through the videos to look for evidence. And now for the update. So 11 and I went to my mom's house for Easter and I saw 14. We had been talking on FaceTime and on call. She was happy to see me, and I told her we needed to have a long talk about what had happened. I said what she did was very out of character, and that I want to get to the bottom of it. I asked if 11 had done anything to provoke her and if she was jealous. She didn't believe 11 deserved a birthday out because 11 had neglected her chores the previous day. She didn't do the dishes after dinner like she's meant to. Whilst that was something to grasp onto, it didn't totally make sense, as I've never said you can't do X because of Y, unless they did something terrible or there was something we had to do like other commitments. I tried to press further into why 14 felt that way, but she didn't say. I also have never done this to 14. I asked if she had negative feelings. She said sort of. She says she gets super angry at random, and often inconsequential, things like YouTube taking longer to load, or if we don't have a snack she wants to eat. For example, but sometimes there is no reason, and she just gets angry, which is what happened on Thursday. She said she started with 11's lamp, then a glass on her counter, and the more stuff she smashed/destroyed, the better she felt. She explained the ordeal as her blacking out, because she didn't realize how far she'd gone until she had destroyed everything. She said she felt terrible though. She didn't tell me why she wrecked 11's room specifically, but I inferred it has to do with her feelings that 11 didn't deserve a birthday day out, so it was a punishment of sorts fueled by this irrational anger. I understand that 14's explanation may seem all over the place, but I was, and am, just happy to have something out of her and hopefully she'll be able to work through it with professionals. I also apologized for kicking her out and letting my emotions get the better of me. She accepted. On Monday, 14 had her first meeting with a psychiatrist, Jane. She hasn't been able to diagnose 14 with anything yet, but from talking to 14 and Jane afterwards, it's likely 14 has narcissism disorder and perhaps intermittent explosive disorder, but these aren't concrete. I'm doing research on both these things to help 14 the best I can. I do want to address some things that were brought up a lot in the original post. The whole point of separating the girls was to help 11 come to terms with 98% of her stuff being obliterated off the face of the earth, to rebuild her room and safe space, to help her decide which broken objects she wants to keep, etc. It was a snap judgment fueled by emotion, definitely, but I still had to make a decision. 14 is very close to her grandmother, and if 14 is anything like me at that age, she'd spill to her grandmother. Sending 14 to her grandmother's house was not, and should never, be punishment. In that moment, I was so angry and out of my head that any attempt to have a civil sit-down chat with 14 would have inevitably turned into a screaming match, which is not what anyone needed/needs. Now comes the hard bit. 11 is traumatized. She said she'd come with me to see grandma, but she didn't want to see 14. She told me she's afraid of 14, which I feel is warranted, but I haven't voiced that. She stayed in the car during the visit. 11 has almost reverted back to a young child. She started coming into my bed at night due to nightmares, and she also seems very detached from her former self. She's now quite cold, whereas she was very bubbly before. We've been very open about the whole situation, and 11 just says it's hard because she's lost things from friends and family members that were very valuable, as well as trivial things, like her favorite pair of socks or pen. I've done my best to try to substitute things. 11 has become very clingy to me and my plan of switching living situations. 14 comes to me and 11 goes to grandma won't be happening anytime soon. 11 gets visibly panicked when I mention it. I'm going to get 11 a therapist, and after speaking to Jane, we all, Jane, grandma, 14, and I, agreed that 14 should stay with grandma until 11 is okay mentally. I'm still going to visit 14 regularly, and we plan to talk every night. I've also told 14 that she is going to have to pay for everything we buy for 11, and that's starting from next week. She'll have to re-earn her belongings through good behavior, chores, etc. Grandma's on board with us and is going to help me with it. Her electronic access is limited to schoolwork, and she can earn back minutes of electronic fun time, just like her belongings. So overall, things are getting slowly better, but it's going to be a long ride. Thank you to everyone who was actually helpful. It meant a lot. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for sending my daughter away? I, 52 female, am a single mom with 5 kids. 3 of them are adults and 2, 14 female and 13 male, are minors who live with me. Their father is currently incarcerated. 14 female has been diagnosed with major depressive disorder and severe anxiety and has been struggling with it for the past 2 years. I've tried to be there to support her, but I work a lot to make ends meet. There has been some issues in my past that may have contributed to her condition, alcoholism, but I'm working on getting it under control. The problem is that I feel like she isn't making any progress. She has meds that apparently aren't working anymore, and she's been hospitalized twice. I feel like she isn't implementing any of the skills and coping mechanisms she's learned. She says that she's trying, but it's harder than I think it is. I've been through my own issues before, and I do realize that is not easy, but I feel like it's been long enough. So I made the decision to send her to her aunt's house for a few weeks. I think she'll be able to have a more rigid schedule and support system over there. I told her about it last night, and she freaked out. Told me that I didn't love her and that I was just sick of dealing with her and her issues. And when I stuck my ground, she told me that she didn't feel safe at her aunt's house and should go anywhere but there, which I think are just excuses. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Some additional information. 1. She had a therapist for months, but she was the one who wanted to stop, about a month ago. Because apparently, her therapist was saying a lot of things that made her feel bad about herself. I'm actively looking for a new one within our budget. 2. I love my daughter very much, despite what you think. 3. My adult children do not speak to me. They keep in touch with their younger siblings, but I don't even know where they live. 4. I probably should have included it in the post. But another reason for sending her away is for my son's sake. He hates seeing his sister like that, and it makes him extremely upset that she won't interact with him anymore as they grew up very close. Also, they have a drastically different relationship with their father, and it's something that causes fights between them. He regularly speaks to and visited, because of COVID, him, and she has been no contact for about 2 years now. Now for the top comments. The biggest you're the a-hole I can possibly give. Let's count out why. 1. You're quick to dismiss that your alcoholism has seriously contributed to her illness and give yourself plenty of leeway in getting it under control, which you don't give her, despite the fact that she's 14. Being 14 is hard enough. 2. If she's not making any progress, why would sending her somewhere she really hates be any better? It's obvious you're just trying to get rid of her, so it's less headache for you, and she's definitely aware of that. 3. The fact that she's saying anywhere but there about her aunt's house is so upsetting. How do you know nothing bad has happened to her there? Have you even bothered asking why she doesn't feel safe there? At 14, sounds like this poor kid has been through more than some adults. The fact that she's been hospitalized multiple times is terrifying. Take actual care for her and ask her what she needs. 4, and don't forget Dad is in prison. This brings to mind 2 possibilities. He may be the better emotionally supportive parent and is now unavailable. 5. Dad may also have been an addict, /alcoholic/violent, adding to the chaotic childhood caused by mom's alcoholism. I know not all prisoners are addicts or abusers, but this seems a strong possibility. 6. I wonder if one of the 3 adult children were parentified, so she's lost her real mom. You're the a-hole. She didn't feel safe at her aunt's house and should go anywhere but there. If she doesn't feel safe at her aunt's place, then don't send her to her aunt's place. If you dismiss this as just an excuse, I think I can see why she may have some diagnosis. You're the a-hole for so many reasons. I'm surprised no one has brought it up. You're an alcoholic that's still working on getting it under control as a 52-year-old adult. Why are you allowed 50 plus years to get your crap under control, but your child needs a timeline? Your child deserves better than you. Edit 2. Okay, I get it. I am the a-hole. I have thrown away the idea of sending my daughter to her aunt's. My eldest daughter drove 3 hours to pick 14 female up, and she tore into me when she got here. As much as some of you are reading between the lines and drawing conclusions that aren't true, A lot of you have really good points. I can't be a good parent when I'm not dealing with my own issues in a healthy way. I'm going to work harder to solve them. I will try to let my older daughter know about the possible abuse and see if she can get her to open up. Because obviously 14 female will not talk to me about it right now. Lastly, big screw you to the people leaving death threats in my PMs. It's never okay, even if you think I'm the most awful person in the world. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to punish my sister? I, 15 female, live with my parents and my siblings, 11 female and 8 male. My sister and I do not have a good relationship. I think she's spoiled, entitled, and whiny as hell. I think my parents let her act however the heck she wants to act, and they don't give a crap how it affects everyone else. It's like she's still 2 years old, allowed into everyone's things, to interrupt when people are talking, is allowed to dictate stuff even when it's meant to be someone else's turn. Like my brother's birthday. He wanted burgers and she wanted pizza. So pizza it was. Even though her favorite place he doesn't like and it was his birthday, or when it was mine and I wanted tacos and she wanted pizza. Another time I was babysitting and my brother and I wanted McDonald's and she wanted pizza again, and she threw an epic tantrum because she couldn't get her way, and then our parents told me I was wrong. Even for family time, she will throw a tantrum if she doesn't like the movie chosen and then she gets to choose. They've even changed my brother's last 2 birthday parties to do what she likes instead of what he likes. And he was heartbroken the last time because he really wanted to do karting. I hate it. She's not a baby. She's just spoiled, and I do not like spending time with her. I only spend time with her when it's family time, and even then, it's such a PITA. I have a diary where I vent about her, so I won't end up saying that stuff to her face. I keep it under my mattress. Yesterday, I was dropping off stuff at my grandparents' house, and when I got home, she had turned my room upside down and she found my diary. She was hurt by the stuff she read, and mad about it too, and she threw another tantrum. But I was more pissed. My parents were mad at me when she snooped and tossed my stuff around. They said my punishment should be having to clean it up, which I found really unfair, and I told them it was her that should be punished. I told them nobody will want to deal with her eventually if she keeps acting like that, and she deserved to be punished for doing what she did. My parents were then even more mad that I was telling them what to do and how to parent. They said I should apologize for that. I don't think it's wrong when they're the ones encouraging bad behavior. I also think it's unfair when they let her get away with crap. Not a-hole. You need to start throwing a tantrum back and get your brother involved as well. 2 can yell louder than 1. A resounding chorus of "that's not fair," "she's a brat," etc. may start resonating with your parents. If they want an easy life and giving into her is it, then play her at her own game. Birthday party-wise, definitely start outright refusing. No, it is my/brother's birthday. If she doesn't like it, she's not invited. And definitely start telling your sister this stuff directly. I don't want you at my birthday. You're trying to change it to what you want. So you aren't welcome. Keep it up, ignore the tears, etc. Refuse to apologize and speak calmly to parents about their favoritism and how they're ruining your birthdays to the point you won't want anything to do with your sister when you're old enough to have a choice. This stuff will sink in, but be clear and direct. Speak with authority. Not a-hole. This is clear favoritism. She's going to have a hard time when she gets older and people stop tolerating her shenanigans. Your parents are mad at you because you're right. If they weren't so bad at parenting, you wouldn't need to tell them how to parent. She will probably manipulate other people. Not a-hole. She's their golden child. They don't want to acknowledge it, but it's true. So many stories on Reddit about the golden child and how parents indulge them to the detriment of their relationships with their other kids, such as in the case of you and your brother. These actions they're doing right now will be the roots of your low/no contact with them and your sister in the future. Not a-hole. Your parents are enabling her behavior, and they're either willfully ignorant about it or know exactly what they're doing and have picked her out as the golden child. Can you go to your grandparents about how your parents and sister are acting? They've tried before. My parents don't care. It annoys the crap out of them too. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law I don't give a hoot what she or everyone thinks when she criticized how I spent Mother's Day? My relationship with mother-in-law has been complicated, to say the least. I'm my husband's second wife. I married him when his kids were 7 and 5. His first wife died when they were 1 and 3, and her death was very hard on my husband at his oldest. I actually met him while he was still in grief counseling, and so were the kids. We built up a friendship, and later, after we had dated a bit casually, we realized we had feelings for each other. It was a very rough transition. Not going to lie, the kids' maternal side were not pleased that he found someone while the kids were young, and I do believe they eventually influenced the relationship I now have with my stepchildren, who are 19 and 21 respectively. To them, I am their dad's wife. This is how they introduced me. This is how they have introduced me the whole way along. Although they didn't really introduce me the way at all as younger kids, it was more as they got older. There has always been a strain there. It's tough. It has made my relationship with my in-laws, my husband's parents and siblings, at times uncomfortable. They see it as I have been around since before they can remember, and with them not remembering their mom, I'm mom, or at least a mom type. The kids, despite my best efforts, have never embraced or truly accepted me into their lives. I think over the years they have accepted me into their dads, but it has spilled into how they see the children my husband and I have together. About 3 years ago, my stepchildren dug in their heels and refused to celebrate Mother's Day in any way with us. They always saw their maternal family, were always taken to their mom's grave, but even a dinner with me and the family was a very firm no. And after each one moved out, they just stopped talking on Mother's Day with us. This year, I took my kids to the beach for the day and had some good food and relaxed. My mother-in-law told me it was wrong to not even give my stepkids a chance to show up or call. That looked bad. She thought I loved them and all this nonsense. She told me to think about how it must look to everybody else that I'm going off with just my bio kids and celebrating with them on Mother's Day. I told her it was my choice and I moved on. Then she brought it up again. Same response. The third time she brought it up, after my husband had even told her to leave it alone, I told her I did not give a flying cow what she or anybody else thought, and I am not going to be a glutton for punishment the rest of my life. She and the rest of my husband's family are outraged I said that to her, and told me it was uncalled for. My husband told me I could have said much worse. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If your stepkids refuse to spend Mother's Day with you, what are you supposed to do? Forget you have your own kids and skip it? Nah, that's messed up. Also, this is not your fight. Your husband needs to handle everything with his family and his late wife's family from now on if they are going to be nasty to you. It's not your fault his first wife died, and they act as though he was supposed to be single the rest of his life after his first wife died. He mostly always did handle things with his late wife's family. I did try to be nice and just try to see that I wasn't here trying to raise their daughter, /sister, /granddaughter, /aunt. But yeah, I knew my place with them a long time ago. For the maternal side of the family, they expected him to wait until the kids wouldn't have another mom-like person or even another mom. At least that's how it has always come across. It wasn't the act of moving on, it was the when. So, it seems like they expected him to not move on with his life until his youngest was 18, which would have been 17 years. That is absolutely ridiculous and wholly unfair to expect of anyone. Around that length of time. Maybe if the kids had been teens and less likely to see me as anything but dad's wife. But they definitely appeared to want him to wait until it was next to impossible for a close parental bond to form between me and the kids, or whoever and the kids. Wow. It sucks that he didn't put them in their place early on. He controlled access to the kids. He could have solved this whole thing. He did. Then they sued and won grandparents' visitation, which came with a lot of things we were unable to control. And they won even though he hadn't officially severed contact with them. Not the a-hole. The stepkids haven't expressed interest in celebrating Mother's Day with you before. Why would they now? Considering it sounds like you raised them from pretty young, I find that attitude pretty disrespectful of them assuming you weren't a bad stepmother. But that's between you and them. Your mother-in-law is an a-hole though. Not only has she and her family treated you poorly for years, she intruded where she had no right and kept pressing after both you and your husband told her to stop. It was past time to put your foot down, in my opinion. I have just grown to accept that they wanted what their maternal family told them about. The mom who gave birth to them and raised them until her unfortunate passing. And over the years, they believed it would be disrespectful or maybe even dishonoring her to accept me as anything other than the woman Dad is married to. At some point, you don't need to accept it even if you don't like it. Yeah, if she had said it once and left it there, it would be much easier. But she just had to keep pushing. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for accepting a Mother's Day gift from my stepkids? Plus little update. My husband and his ex divorced after husband's ex came out as a trans man. They have 2 kids together who were 7 and 9 at the time. Husband and I married when they were 10 and 12. We now have 2 children together as well who were 3 and 4. Stepkids are now 15 and 18. They have had a rough haul with husband's ex and came to live with us soon after we got married. Ex has been clear the kids are not to call him mom, so they now call him by his first name. He has also been in a series of relationships that have been hard for the kids. I have never asked or expected that they call me mom or see me as a maternal figure. However, this past Mother's Day, they asked if they could join us at dinner and had bought me a gift, a very lovely locket that says mother on it. Well, ex just learned about this and called me very angry. He says I am trying to displace him in his children's lives and that I should return the locket. I find the whole thing confusing as he has made it clear on multiple occasions he doesn't want to be their mother. I really don't want to do that as I think it would hurt the kids. So am I the a-hole for accepting the mother locket from my stepkids? Not the a-hole. That is such a lovely thing for them to do. You're not replacing him as a parent, but you are providing the mom role they clearly miss having with him. I have tried to help where I can. Truly. Like when stepdaughter needed her first bra. I knew that would be hard for ex, and I also knew husband would have zero clue. So I took her shopping. Stuff like that. Girls need a female figure in their life to help with stuff like periods and bras. It's great that she feels comfortable with you. Not the a-hole, but I don't think it's got anything to do with their transparent. They're old enough and you've been part of their lives long enough that they can decide who they view as a mother figure. I'd say the same if their birther was still identifying as female. Exactly. Not the a-hole. They bought that for you because you were a mother figure to them. The ex seems to be jealous or insecure about it, but you shouldn't return it because of him. The kids will think that you don't want to be their mother. Not the a-hole. Sounds like the ex has lots of personal issues to deal with that they don't need to project onto you. You have been there for the kids. They've lived with you and you aren't erasing their bio mom. Update. First, thank you so much for all your kind words and encouragement. It really does mean a lot because I'm trying out here. So I called X because that's who I am. I started the conversation by letting X know that stepkids are amazing and smart and funny and headed to a lot of success. And X can take a lot of credit for that. X was absolutely their primary caregiver from birth until late elementary school. Those are important years and those are hard years. I am parenting 2 young children now and it is tough. And I am doing it without having to struggle with/against my own identity at the same time. I think X did an amazing thing for nearly a decade. And whatever happened or happens after that doesn't erase X's influence and hard work. I also acknowledged to X that, as the parent of young children, I totally know that if in 10 years my kids are estranged from me, even if I have done something that justifies it, I would feel hurt and angry. It is easy to feel someone owes you if you change their diaper and wipes their noses consistently for years. And I got a laugh here, so that's good. I also told X I would be keeping the locket. Not to hurt X or displace X, but because I love the kids that we, for better or for worse, share now. I also told X I want X to be more open with husband and I about what we can do to support X's relationship with these young adults. But that support can't be at the expense of the kids' happiness, safety, or health. X wasn't necessarily happy with this answer, but seemed to understand better too. He said that he will always feel like I took over his life, but he thinks we can be civil. That is his right to think, and I hope that we can be more civil going forward. Oh, and since Mother's Day, stepdaughter has been calling me Mama D. I haven't stopped her, and if I am honest, it makes me rather happy. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for going to a Mother's Day lunch when I'm child-free? I, 23 female, was invited to a Mother's Day lunch by my childhood best friend, Haley, 24 female. Haley is hosting and paying for the lunch. Her kid is Dee Dee, 3 female. I was confused since I have been openly child-free since I was 15. I felt weird intruding on a celebration that had nothing to do with me. I thought it was to babysit, but she said that wasn't the reason. For context, her devout family cut her off due to her pregnancy. So I was the only person there to help her with doctor appointments, errands, cleaning, etc. When Dee Dee was born, I helped with anything she needed until she got her bearings. She doesn't need much help now, but I am still very involved. Haley texted, When I think of having and raising Dee Dee, you always come to mind. You were always there. And if it weren't for you, I might have really messed up. I want you to be there. Mother's Day has always brought up very comfortable or unwanted comments towards me, so I stay out of the way. To have Haley include me in such a personal way meant a lot. I love Dee Dee and was so honored. Skip to the lunch date last Saturday. Sitting at the table was Haley, 2 co-workers of hers, Dee Dee's nanny of 2 years, and me. A little into lunch, Haley said that her gym buddy was asking to join since her sitter canceled, so her plans fell through. We all said no problem. Gina shows up with her kid in tow and lunch starts up again. While we're talking, coworker 1 shows a gift she got from one of her kids, which sparks a conversation about fulfilling things their kids do. I commented at their stories, but didn't have my own, so I let them talk. Everyone at the table was aware I didn't have kids / was child-free, except for Gina. I didn't figure it would be noticeable if I was contributing to the conversation. I just loved being part of it and seeing the point of view of mothers. Gina must have noticed I hadn't added anything, so she asked me about my kids, and said she noticed I was left out. I told her I don't have any kids to talk about, but she got wide-eyed and apologized for bringing up painful stuff. I quickly corrected her and said it wasn't anything painful. I was just child-free. She got quiet, and after a minute, asked Haley to head to the bathroom with her. They came back looking pissed, and when I texted Haley asking what's wrong, she said nothing. Eventually, Gina, angrily, asked why I was even here if I wasn't a mom. I explained Haley invited me, but Gina just shook her head and said it didn't matter. It was insulting that I was even here when I didn't respect and avoided motherhood. It got heated after Gina said a few more hurtful things to Haley and I, and she was told to leave. Once lunch was over, Haley started crying in the car because she'd been looking forward to this lunch for 2 weeks. I feel terrible. I knew how much this meant to her, and I didn't think my child-free stance would come off as hating motherhood. I really don't. I just don't want to be a mother myself. Should I just not accept this invite in the first place? Now for the top comments. Gina sounds absolutely awful. You did nothing wrong, not even in the slightest. Gina's an awful person not to be seen ever again. You should plan something special for Haley, since her very generous and lovely Mother's Day plans were ruined by no fault of yours or hers. She didn't deserve that. And you don't deserve to be attacked for your life choices, because there's nothing wrong with being child-free. Not day whole. Right? Imagine coming in, eating free food, then attacking someone on the basis of what they do with their own uterus. Even my cats are more polite than that while being fed. Not day whole. You were invited by Haley and she knew that you were child-free. Maybe if you had misrepresented your family or something you would be at fault. But Haley invited you specifically because she felt that you were very close and had taken on an important role in her life that, to me at least, seems like almost a godmother to her child. Also, there's absolutely nothing wrong with not wanting kids. It's a personal choice that is no one else's business, and you never have to explain it to anyone. You seem like an amazing person and friend, and Haley is very lucky to have you. Thank you so much. Reddit is amazing. Not Dayhall. That lady is weird and had no right to dictate who your friend invited. She was a guest and acted ridiculous. I'm glad your friend stood up for you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that she doesn't have to forgive my wife? My 35 female daughter Amelia, female 12, has ulcerative colitis, and her body has a talent for building antibodies against medicines. She's had UC for 2 years now and hasn't been able to stay on medicine for longer than 6 months. She built antibodies against the medicine she was on and is in a bad flare, so we've been in the hospital since Monday. Monday to Wednesday, my wife Jessica, 36 female, and I were both at the hospital and only left for food/clothes and never left her alone at the hospital. Being at the hospital alone terrifies her. Then on Thursday, Jessica didn't come after work because she was tired. We got into an argument about it, but she swore she'd be here yesterday. Amelia was scheduled to get an NG tube and PICC line yesterday and was scared and asked for both of us to be here. When she was FaceTiming Jessica, she promised Amelia that she'd be here in time. Then yesterday, when it was time to get the PICC line, Jessica still wasn't at the hospital. I checked Live 360 and saw that she was still at home. Amelia cried the entire time because her mom wasn't there. Then a few hours later, it was time for the NG tube. Jessica was still at home. Amelia sobbed and begged us to wait because she wanted her mom. She cried and fought so much that they had to wait until this morning to do it. I called Jessica last night after Amelia was in bed, argued again, and I told her to be here this morning. This morning they sedated Amelia and started to get everything ready for the NG tube, and Jessica was still at home. They ended up having to restrain Amelia because she was fighting so much. Jessica finally showed up 4 hours after the NG tube when Amelia was asleep. When Amelia woke up and saw Jessica there, she immediately told her to get out. Jessica left and came back a few hours later with bags of gifts for Amelia. She was again told to leave. Jessica asked if there was anything she could do to make her feel better, and Amelia said she'd feel better if she left her alone. I talked to Amelia and told her that it's understandable that she's mad at Jessica and that she doesn't have to forgive her right away. She needs time to work through her feelings, and that's completely fine. Jessica texted her and asked what she could do to get her to forgive her, and Amelia texted her back and said, "Mommy said I don't have to forgive you." Now Jessica's mad that I'm not trying to convince Amelia to forgive her. Not today, Hull. You did a great job not invalidating your daughter's feelings. What's up with your wife though? She forgot, and thinks that she can buy her daughter's forgiveness rather than acknowledge she messed up, and her daughter's hurt feelings are valid. I think she's having a really hard time coping with seeing her daughter so sick. Going through painful procedures, has gone into avoidance mode and couldn't bring herself to walk out the door to go to the hospital. It happens. Everyone gets so focused on the sick child that they fail to look after each other or give themselves self-care, and sometimes people just break. Opie needs to sit down with her wife and get her to talk about how she's actually feeling, just in case this is what is happening. If it is, then Opie can mediate to explain to their daughter why mom didn't show up. If it isn't what happened, then it's a whole other conversation. Not today, Hull. And Jessica might not necessarily be an a-hole either. Everyone needs to remember that this is an ongoing condition, not a one-week fiasco that most parents might deal with when it comes to their children. Parents of chronic and serious medical conditions can suffer many physical and mental issues themselves as a result of caring for their child. This is not a normal situation, and people need to be careful passing judgment. Parents deal with exhaustion, stress, emotional torture, and are prone to psychiatric conditions that might not normally have reared their heads, as well as breakdowns. Amelia is going through hell and fighting for her life, but Amelia only has herself to focus on. The world doesn't stop because 2 people have a sick child. So all the outside pressures that everyone has to carry without the stress of a constant medical emergency is still on their shoulders. Opie's a very strong person and is handling this situation amazingly, but not everyone can be that strong. I know this isn't the place for suggestions, but if I was in this situation, I too would be furious, but I would demand my spouse to see a medical doctor, as well as a professional that can help with any psychological issues that are starting to burst through the seams. Info. What was Jessica doing at home? Why did she say she would be there but not show up until it was over? Yesterday, her excuse was that she forgot, and today it was that seeing people vomit makes her nauseous. Amelia throws up a lot after getting an NG tube.